Thank you again for your time. Before I explain the rest of my policies and why I believe they're the most effective policies for our country, I'd like to make some additions and clarifications to my tax plan that I did not mention in my last speech. As we all know, Puerto Rico has been devastated from Hurricane Maria. Most of its citizens have no access to electricity, which is a basic right for everybody. The $4.9 billion allocated by Ronald Plump is not enough. We must spend more to help Puerto Ricans, but the government cannot afford it all. I propose creating high tax deductions for any charitable donation to Puerto Ricans in order to encourage individuals to provide needed resources. In addition, I'd like to clarify my tax plan's impact on the working and middle classes. As promised, I will reduce the number of tax brackets. In doing so, I'll incorporate a moderate tax cut for the middle class. The working class will also receive a tax cut from my increased child tax credit. The freed up cash for individuals will create increased demand for companies' products, which in combination with my corporate tax cuts and tax-deductible loans for small businesses, will encourage businesses to expand, create more products, and hire more workers. Education is what shapes America's future. However, our current education system is leading us in the wrong direction. Common Core and national requirements prevent state and local governments from creating curricula effective for their own students. Without Common Core, these local governments, who can better judge the needs of the residents, will be able to create their own curricula. Federal money once used for developing and enforcing national curricula will be invested in student loans, private school vouchers, and block grants for underfunded schools. Although I support decentralizing education, we must not privatize education either, as proposed by Senator Marquardt. Under a private system, neither national nor local governments could ensure that every American has access to free and high-quality education that meets even very basic standards. Moving on, as a country, we must protect individuals around the world whose human rights are being violated. My #1 foreign policy priority as president will be fighting ISIS. Every day, ISIS soldiers are raping women, beheading American soldiers, and slaughtering innocent civilians. I propose using unmanned drones that can actually strike ISIS targets without killing civilians. These unmanned drones will also protect the lives of Americans. In addition to fighting ISIS, we must also respond to other humanitarian crises, events around the world that threaten the health and safety of large groups of people. For example, we must defend civilians trapped in war-torn countries and oppose abusive dictators. We cannot morally ignore all these crises, as Senators Hurdle and Marquardt suggest. But on the other hand, we cannot entangle ourselves in endless involvements that have no hope of victory. Before any involvement, we must consider whether we can effectively help the lives of either our citizens or citizens around the world. After 15 years in Afghanistan, we spent almost $1 trillion and almost 70,000 American soldiers, allies, and Afghan civilians and police have been killed. Yet, this Taliban is still growing, 37% of the country is run by terrorists, and the government that does exist has major corruption issues. Imagine if that $1 trillion were actually spent helping Americans afford health care or reducing our debt. We must therefore consider the consequences of our foreign policy decisions before making them. Finally, pollution is posing a greater and greater threat to America, while past presidents have stood by idly, watching this problem grow. President Ronald Plump is the onester from the Lorax, giving businesses free rein to abuse the environment. Meanwhile, according to EPA estimates, 122.5 million Americans, that's about 1/3 of the country, live in counties with pollution levels above the national ambient air quality standards. And what is the greatest contributor to this unhealthy level of pollution? The burning of fossil fuels. They are the heart of the problem. Yet fossil fuels drive our economy, supplying 85% of America's energy supply. How do we address this issue without wiping out the foundations of our economy? Senator Marquardt's carbon tax burdens American corporations. Senator Nolman's migration of public transportation to renewable energy does not do enough to reduce carbon emissions, with only 5% of Americans regularly using public transit. And Governor Tico's plan to increase the number of America's solar panels from 1 million to 1 billion can be described in one word: unrealistic. So then again, how do we effectively reduce greenhouse gas emissions while preserving our status as a leader in the world economy? I propose that we invest in coal pollution mitigation, a series of systems and technologies that significantly reduce air pollution from burning coal without eliminating hundreds of thousands of jobs for our coal workers. Clean coal technologies have proven to reduce nitric oxide emissions by 90%, according to the World Nuclear Association. And by endorsing such technologies, we can further improve their efficiency, effectively fighting pollution's harmful effects for humans and wildlife. I'd like to thank all of you again for listening to me. With the current state of partisan politics, this election is incredibly important. If you elect me as president, we will forever remember the day when we finally end petty partisan gridlock through common sense politics. Happy holidays.